Hello my friends, William Poloniak here from Whole Health Foundation. In this video I'm doing a repair and overhaul of a Norwalk juicer for one of the staff members at the Gerson Institute in San Diego. This video is going to document what I'm doing to that juicer so you can see what's to be done. Let's take a look. The first problem we encountered was the cutter was stuck on the motor shaft and we actually needed a crowbar to get that off. So what I'm going to do after we take the cutter off is clean the inside and oil it with one of these wire brushes that's normally used as a copper tubing cleaner. And then I've enabled the juicer to work without the feed tube on, so I'm going to use some sandpaper to clean the shaft. And then we'll smooth it out with 600 grit sandpaper. And we'll see if that cutter will fit. Now what the previous owner did was they made the mistake of tightening down these screws. They should never be tightened. It should be just tight enough that the cutter goes on easily and off easily like that. So there we have fixed the cutter. We'll clean the keyway here with the wire brush. Test that one more time. The cutter goes on and off easily. And what we'll do now is we'll add a little bit of oil. 3-in-1 oil to the shaft. And that will help the cutter be lubricated on the shaft. There we got that fixed. The second problem was we couldn't get the press plate off. So what I'm going to do next is put a couple of pieces of 2x4 in here, release the lever, and put some special tools under the shaft to pry it off. Now with some special custom-made tools I was able to remove the press plate from the piston, but it looks like the piston is mushroomed. It'll have to go to the machine shop, and because it won't fit in we have to clean the inside of the piston. So that's our next step, is to remove the top and take it to the machine shop to have that work done, and then replace the return spring inside. What I'm doing next is rounding the corners on the press cover. This will make it easier to clean the juicer. I've already cut the rounded corners and I'm going to file it smooth now. On the sheet metal you'll notice that the rivet nuts are missing, so we're going to replace the rivet nuts that are missing and re-tap the old rivet nuts to make sure the screws go in properly. The next step will be to clean the bottom with soap and water and the top, and then take the top off with the piston to see if the piston will come out. And if not, we'll take this whole device to the machine shop, have the piston repaired, remove it, and replace the return spring, which is faulty. In this case we got lucky. The piston came out with a little bit of effort with a tool and a hammer, so we're going to remove this. And as you can see, the oil is very, very filthy, and that needs to be replaced. And the oil smells bad too, so we're going to replace the oil, replace the return spring, and you can see by this how dirty the oil was. As you can see, the top of the piston is very dirty, so I'm going to use some 60 grit sandpaper to clean that, and then polish it with 100 grit sandpaper, or 400 grit sandpaper that is. Sandpaper, or is it 600 grit? 600 grit sandpaper. And hopefully this will fit inside the top. It's a very tight fit, but it does fit. So we will not need to machine this. We're very lucky this time. But we will have to clean the top, as you can see. Next I'm going to clean the inside of the piston. And you can see probably in there the rust at the bottom that came out of the piston. And then I'm going to oil it. Next, I'm going to replace the return spring, which should not depress into the chamber like this one. This one is definitely defective. And I'm going to replace it with a chromium spring that has a lifetime warranty. So the first thing we'll do is pry this out of here with a screwdriver or any other tool that will get it out. And it's totally compressed beyond use. We'll throw that one away, put in the new spring, and then we'll reassemble. There we go. And as you can see, the new spring does not depress into the chamber. And the next step will be a fluid change. Using a turkey baster, I'm going to remove this old oil. And as you can see, it's black and very, very dirty. And it smells very, very bad as well. But we don't have smell-o-vision, so you can't smell it. The next thing I'm going to do is turn the switch on for about 1/2 second and purge the pump and get all the dirty oil out of the pump. As you can see, there's quite a bit of dirty oil in that pump. So we'll purge the pump one more time, get a paper towel and get it out of there. Just 1/2 second. Put the piston and the piston chamber back in the reservoir, and we'll fill that with red transmission fluid. And we're going to fill it to 1/2 inch from the top. Normally we'd fill it 3/4 inch from the top, but since we purged the pump, 1/2 inch from the top. There we go. And next we'll put the top on, tighten it down with the 6 bolts. Because this is a new spring, we're using a block of wood here to make it easier to put the bolts in until we get them tightened down. So we've got 6 bolts on the top. We'll tighten them down and then we'll use a torque wrench to get them to the proper tightness. You do not want to over tighten these bolts, otherwise you'll strip the aluminum threads. Next we'll use a torque wrench to tighten it down to 75 inch-pounds. There we go. Now we'll give it a test. All the way up. And then let's see how it performs on the way down. It should go all the way down. Perfect! Let's try that again. With the tripod a little lower. All the way up. Should take 15 to 18 seconds to go up, as it does, and then all the way down. Beautiful. Return spring has a lifetime warranty. And remember, all of the work done for Gerson employees is done with free labor. Gerson patients get 50% off, and if Gerson patients have a hardship, we can talk about it, and maybe we can do something even better. The next thing I'm going to do is remove these 4 bolts from the back of the motor so that I can inspect the front motor shaft seal. And we'll take the cordless screwdriver, remove those long bolts. Just turn that around and remove the front plate. And as you can see, the front motor shaft seal is very dirty and needs to be replaced. It's all worn out. We'll take a screwdriver, pry out this old worn out seal, discard it, clean this out of course. Let's take a paper towel to do that. And we'll get a new seal and put it in there. A new seal. Now there's a little tiny spring in here. I don't know if you can see it or not, but that spring goes toward the front, and we'll press the seal in there with a piece of plastic tubing. We're going to pound it down and seat it as well as seated as we can get it. The next step will be to add a little bit of oil to the seal and then oil it once a week, as I'll demonstrate in a minute. Now, before I assemble this, I'm going to test the front motor bearing because I want to make sure whether it needs to be replaced or not. Let's take a listen. It actually sounds okay. So we'll reassemble. Okay, I've cleaned the plate, put in a new seal. I've also rounded the corners of the sheet metal so it's easier to clean. And now what we'll do is reassemble. And tighten the bolts in back. Alright, the next step is to tighten these bolts in the back with a torque wrench. We want them to be equally tight, about 35 inch-pounds. There we go. Good for another 10 or 15 years. Now let's see what that motor sounds like with the new seal. Beautiful. And the last step is going to be to clean the bottom with soap and water, put the sheet metal back on, reassemble everything, and return it to the Gerson Institute. The next step is to clean the bottom with soap and water. And I have a mixture of soap and water in this little bottle, so I'm going to soak the bottom. Then I'm going to take a used toothbrush and scrub everywhere until we get this spotless. You might need a flat screwdriver to scrape off some of this dried on juice. And we take a spray nozzle, clean it, and maybe scrub it one more time. The next thing I'm going to do with this special tool I had made is retap all of the screw holes, because the last service person used the wrong screws in here and stripped the threads. So we have to put in the correct screws. Let's get the correct screw in here, and we'll continue doing this all around the juicer. Next, I'm going to replace the missing rivet in the sheet metal with this special tool that I have. Crimp that down. There we go. And we'll back that off. Tap it with the tap tool to make sure that the 832 thread runs true. And yes, it does. Cleaned it up a little bit. What I'm also going to do is replace the missing logo with these very hard to find logos. Just peel off the glue tape and we'll tape that over the appropriate place. There we go, ready to reassemble. And we'll finish this off by tapping the thread holes for that one thread where they have the wrong screw in here. So we have all the holes appropriately cleaned out with the tapping tool. The next to the last step is going to be to put some masking tape around the post and caulk it so that juice doesn't leak down below. Like so. back all the way along the plate. Make sure caulking is around everywhere. This is going to minimize any cleanup later. Installing the leg height kit. This makes it easier to clean under the juicer and also easier to make single servings in a small wide mouth jar. There we have it, all done. Now we're finished, and I want to point out we've rounded the corners on the sheet metal to make it easier to clean, replaced the missing rivet nuts, replaced the missing logo, cleaned the cutter, and cleaned the shaft so that it fits on and off easily. Before it was stuck on, we had to use a crowbar to get it off. The cutter should never be left on the machine. It should always be taken off, the shaft cleaned, maybe a light bit of oil on the shaft, and once a week or two, 1 drop of oil at the back of the shaft, 3-in-1 household oil. Turn the machine on and off just briefly like that. And of course clean off any excess oil with a paper towel. There you have it, my friends. 1 Norwalk 270 model pro bono work done for the Gerson Institute. I hope you like what you've seen, and if you'd like to call me, my phone number is 760-753-0321. My email address is developtrust@cox.net, and my webpage is wholehealthfound.com. And I hope that you find whole health when you embark upon a juicing program using whole, raw, cold-pressed juices. I'll see you in the next video.